This patient-centered tool is useful in critical care, medical surgical units, and rehabilitation units where it helps to focus the treating team on the goals of the patient care and any needs for discharge. The Interdisciplinary Rounding page facilitates comprehensive documentation of team rounding and transitional care planning. It was developed to enhance communication between disciplines and to assist in reduction of adverse events such as a hospital-acquired condition or a readmission. I'm going to demonstrate the use of our Interdisciplinary Rounding page. The Interdisciplinary Rounding page can be found in the table of contents. You can see that the Interdisciplinary Rounding component is at the top of the page, and the additional components found on the page are there for necessary information that may be needed during rounds to decrease the need to search through the chart. Once we expand the component, you can see the additional sections within the component. There are customized templates that are available to choose as a default for your note template. Here we have critical care and transition of care. For the demonstration, we will use the transition of care template. This will now be set at a user level for the default note template. To collapse or expand a section in the Interdisciplinary Rounding component, simply click the name. The first section that will need to be documented for team rounds is to record a list of the attendees. We have developed the ability to document the team members and save them as a favorite. This allows for efficient use of rounding time to record consistent team members. You're able to add an attendee, load a list of favorites, or save a list of favorites. To add an attendee, I'm going to simply click the plus sign. You'll see it gives us a field to document the last name and first name. As I begin documenting, you'll see a list of staff employees that you're able to choose from, again, to help this to be a more efficient process. By tabbing, it takes me to the discipline in order to document there as well. Now that we've completed our list, we're able to save this list as a favorite in order to use as we progress on to our next patients. I'm going to click the Save as a Favorite icon, give my list a name, and click OK. After we finish rounding on the current patient and we go to the next patient's room, I'm able to open their chart, go into my favorites file, select the favorite folder that I want to use, click OK, and then that list of attendees will appear in my attendees section, again adding for more timeliness and efficiency for rounding. Back on our current patient, and now that we've finished our attendee list, we'll move on to review of systems. The review of systems is a section available to document the team's discussion around systematic findings and concerns. So far, during the rounds, we've discussed the cardiovascular findings and are discussing the respiratory. While we are discussing the respiratory, it's noted that the EF was 25%. So we want to document that here, as well as confirming our diagnosis. You're then able to complete any additional systematic findings before moving on to treatment recommendations and goals. We have designed the treatment and recommendations goals section to pull in the daily documentation as designated for the different disciplines. So to demonstrate how we do this, we're going to go to the S bar, to our recommendation tab, to a component we have called ad hoc charting. It's a search for the power forms, and we're going to look for our PT daily documentation. Once we found the form, we'll open it and we'll document our interdisciplinary rounding recommendations and goals. This allows the physical therapist or other ancillary departments to be able to document as they're seeing patients during the morning on their normal rounds for treatment and evaluations, and have the information available for them during the rounding time. So we'll just document our recommendation for this patient. Once we've completed this, we save. And then back on our treatment recommendations and goals, you'll see that what we've just added to our physical therapy note is now present. We're able then to use the icon to copy to our team recommendation column. Here, we're able to modify or delete as needed. Here we'll make a modification so that it will pull into the note. Each ancillary is able to have their own field for documentation of their interdisciplinary treatment recommendations and goals in order to pull into this component. Next, we will move on to the team concerns. Team concerns presents custom designed concerns for discussion during rounds. This could be hospital-acquired conditions for preventative discussions and interventions like urinary catheters and ventilators. It could be readmission risks, pain, VTE, precautions, immunizations, really any concern that the rounding team needs to be aware of and identify the risk and goals for the patient. We're also able to provide hovers. This is a way to add pertinent charted information into the hover so that it is readily available for the team. We are able to tie compliance issues from our patient care dashboard as well to the hover, so they may be discussed and addressed during rounds as well. There is a risk column and a goal column for each of the team concerns. Here we have a risk that the urinary catheter has been in for a line day of 3, and we want to address the goal for that. We want to remove the Foley by the end of the day if this patient is able to ambulate. Simply tab, and it takes us to the next line. Here for readmission risk, it will pull in the hover any positives that would be presented as a readmission risk. Here you can see we have hovers for ventilation as well. Again, these can be customized to present the appropriate information such as vent settings or any other pertinent information that you would like your team to have. Next is the transition of care. Transition of care component was designed to document those discussions during rounds related to the patient's unit transfer or discharge. Each line item is accompanied by a free text field for relevant documentation of follow-up items that have been done or need to be done. The first line item is the working diagnosis. Working diagnosis is designed to pull from the admission observation transfer orderable, and then we have provided a free text comment field for any additional documentation for any of these line item elements under transition of care. Anticipated date of discharge can be documented on the calendar, and this is used by nursing as well on Care Compass to visually see the goal date of discharge. And that's one way we've been able to incorporate it into our care team. So we will set this patient's anticipated discharge date. The end-of-life care was designed in order to document the end-of-life care for this patient. You have your choices here, and then the free text comment field for any additional documentation that is needed. We're going to choose hospice care, and then we've already got it documented to follow up with the hospice group that we've chosen for the discharge date. For discharge planning, we're able to choose the discharge disposition for the patient for documentation. We're going to choose home with home health. There's also a line item for PCP. During the registration process, if the PCP is entered, it will pull in to display here. You'll notice that we do not have a PCP present. During the rounds with the patient, it was noted that the PCP is Dr. Smith. We're able to document that here, and that we will call and make the PCP aware of the hospital visit. We would also want to update the PCP field, so we're going to come down to the new order entry component, type in PCP, and then we're going to actually order and update PCP, orderable, so that registration can update that in the patient's chart. For the follow-up appointment field, we have a drop-down so they're able to use this as a checklist item and to document any follow-up appointments that have been scheduled or need to be scheduled. Readmission risk was designed to individually display previously assessed readmission risks. Here we display them individually so that they can be addressed as part of the transition of care. Each item has the ability to free text any needed documentation. Here on end-stage condition, we'll go ahead and document that hospice arrangements have been made. Additional discharge needs are able to be documented in an additional free text field. And then the education line, again, provides more of a checklist for the case management or the team so that they're able to document any kind of education that was done with the patient regarding diagnosis, treatment, medication, and these fields can be customized as well. Once the note is complete, once you choose Create Note, your textual rendition of the final note will appear. You're able to review the documentation as needed. You'll also note that it only pulled in the fields that actually had documentation present. It will not pull in any fields that were left blank.